Hello and good day, eh? Welcome to the Super Good Camping Podcast. My name is Pamela.
And I'm Tim.
And we are from supergoodcamping.com. We're here because we wanted to educate and inspire other families to enjoy camping adventures such as we have with our kids. Today we wanted to revisit Bears, so Bears 2.0, and talk a little bit about Turkey Point Provincial Park, which is where our most recent camping excursion took us. So about bears, we've had a few questions, a few concerns. People are worried about what happens if I run into a bear, what should I do? And so I thought I'd just turn over to Tim to talk a little bit more about that.
So, yes, and I understand that people are concerned, and up to a point, validly so. I think as long as you're bear smart, you'll be fine. I can't speak to grizzlies. I've read some stories about how some people have dealt with them, and I'm just not going to go camping where there are grizzlies. That's kind of how that's going to play out for me.
Seems like a good idea.
But black and brown bears, I'm not so worried about. Particularly black bears is what we tend to run into in southern. You're pushing the limits of what you count as southern Ontario, but certainly central and then northern Ontario. Again, as long as you're smart about it, as long as you don't have attractants, in other words, if you don't have food, you don't have garbage that has food in it, you haven't done things in your fire pit, or if you've done things in your fire pit, you've had a good hot fire to burn that stuff out. You pack your food away. You do all those things. So as Pamela mentioned in our previous bear episode, things like toothpaste, gum. They're all yummy smelling things. Don't wear that cherry lip balm. I try to avoid it when we're camping, but that's a tough one. In car camping, there are a few places, a Grundy, a Killbear, that sort of place. For instance, our Turkey Point trip recently, Darlington Provincial Park, Presqu'île. Those are grounds, the campgrounds that you're not going to run into bears. Raccoons maybe, lots of birds, not bears. So, play smart, and really, I suppose if you're that concerned, don't go to ones that there has potential for them to show up in. We've never had a bad encounter, and we've had a handful of them. So, even in backcountry, again, play smart. I think we alluded to hanging our food. We're very conscientious about what we do in the backcountry, because you don't know, and you're not going to see them coming, kind of a deal. So if I was concerned, I would be a little more concerned about it in backcountry, but I'm old and crippled, and I can't run. The kid can run faster than me, which means I get to be the food, and I'm not worried about it. It's really not that big of a deal. Be smart about it. Carry a garbage bag with you, or something that makes a noise that the bear will not recognize and will freak the bear out and make them hopefully run away. We carry bear bells when Thomas and I are in the backcountry. A little ding, 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 just to say, here we come, we're something that you might want not to eat. Go get some blueberries. Don't pick the blueberries, leave them for the bears. That's a good one. There you go.
One specific question we had was somebody who was going to be camping in a trailer with their fridge in the trailer. So they were wondering whether it was safe to have food in their fridge in their trailer.
Again, it depends on the campground. The bears have a wicked sense of smell. If it's a hard-sided trailer, you should be fine. The chances, it will take them a while to chew through the side of it. Should give you plenty of chance to make a run for it. Sorry, I'm kidding.
People are freaking out as you're speaking.
Yeah, I know. You know what? It should never get to that point. Hard-sided trailers, according to the Ontario Provincial Parks, and I believe I saw it on the Canadian, or on the national parks as well. Not a problem. It should be just fine. Soft, like a pop-up trailer, a tent trailer, maybe not such a good idea. Do the cooler and chuck it in the trunk of your car. There you go.
That's it for bears. So Turkey Point Provincial Park is on the shores of Lake Erie. We chose it this year partly because we've never camped on Lake Erie, so we're trying to hit a few of the different Great Lakes that we haven't been to yet. And purportedly, the water there is supposed to be very warm. However, the kids and I didn't find it super warm. But the beach is lovely, and the lake is beautiful, and we did thoroughly enjoy actually going to the beach. It's very busy there at the beach, particularly on the weekends, and it was a very hot weekend, the first weekend that we were there, so it was lots of people at the beach. And the beach itself, which was a little disappointing, is not located inside the park. You actually have to drive a couple of miles outside the park. A couple of kilometers outside the park to get to the beach. That was a bit disappointing. We usually would prefer to be able to bike back and forth to the beach. But anyway, we did end up loading into the car, driving down to the beach a few days that we were there. Parking there at the beach is fine. There's a large parking lot, and there's some street parking there too, so we had no issues with parking. But it was really crowded a couple of the days that we were there. But then midweek, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when we were there, it was fine. Other than that, we enjoyed the park.
So Pam was looking at me with a question mark.
Tim enjoyed the campsite.
So, as she mentioned earlier, she and the kids enjoyed the beach. I was a complete and utter slug. I did nothing but hang around the campsite and cook, eat, read, nap. I napped an awful lot. I totally blame it on whatever I caught in Algonquin and was still getting over. It was like moments of narcolepsy. I would be just fine, and then it took everything I could to not immediately be unconscious. It was a very weird experience. And work's been stressful, so that's part of what camping does for me, much as I generally like to explore and jump on the bike once in a while and all that sort of jazz. It's not this trip to Turkey Point. Some of the things I did notice that I quite liked. The staff was, for what fairly minimal encounters we had with them, they were fantastic. Very polite, very helpful. Man, they were on cleaning the comfort stations and the vault toilets and all that sort of jazz. They were all over that often and did an exceptional job, I think. They patrolled fairly often, or patrolled might be the wrong term. They certainly did drive-bys fairly often, including some of the wardens. There was no noise. Sure, shouting kids at 7:30 in the morning, but they're little kids. Like, it's not surprising. I think the park rules said quiet time was from 10 a.m. till 7, something like that. 10 p.m. until 7, and it was. There was no partying. There was no yahoos. Nothing. It was great, and we did manage to luck out and get a radio-free campground. Radio-free means that you don't hear radios, but people being drunk and up until whatever wee hours. Sometimes that happens. This was fantastic. There was no noise at all. It was great.
A couple of other things to note. Turkey Point Mountain Bike Club has a network of trails that go through Turkey Point. We didn't avail ourselves of them, but if you're into mountain biking, we saw lots of the trails, and it looked like it would be pretty fun.
They are, and sorry, just because I did look through the map originally. There's like different levels of skills. There's a whack of different trails, and I want to say there's 3 different levels of, and whether it's from length or just ability, the up and the down and the dodging trees and stuff. But it looked like an amazing, like if you had a bike and you just wanted to get out there and give her, that would be a good place to go.
Yeah. The kids and I did one of the hikes of 3 hikes that they have there, which was called the Lookout Bluff Trail, which was a nice trail, and it did take you to a bluff where you could look out onto Lake Erie and the town is actually sort of a lakeside town, so just right along the main drag that runs right along the lake. There's a few restaurants that are mostly takeout kind of food, so fish and chips and burgers and things like that. Ice cream places, we sampled several of the ice cream places in Turkey Point and came to the conclusion that there was one that actually advertised itself as having the largest scoop ice cream, and so that was definitely our favorite. We sampled Shaw's ice cream, Chapman's ice cream, and Nestle ice cream. And the Chapmans, I think, won out. We played a round of mini golf at the mini golf place there. So we had some fun. And it's a nice little, but it's mainly just takeout restaurants as far as the town itself.
Well, and just to throw out a couple other points, I suppose, the sites were quite large, well-treated, so good privacy in the grand scheme of things. Our site in particular had 2 tables, two picnic tables. Fire pit, we had a place for 2 tents, dining tent over 1 table, have a second table where we didn't want to sit in the dining tent, so we could cook elsewhere. It had a little bit of a grade, which turned out to be a wonderful thing considering how much rain we had when we were there. Holy mackerel.
Brutal thunderstorm. One of the nights we were there was so loud. And the kids were saying, like, it just lit up the tent. The lightning was so bright.
And it poured. I have no idea. I would assume it's somewhere between 50 and 75 millimeters of water. It just hammered down that night. Kind of neat, but a little bit. We're on the upper part of the slope, right? It's only a little bit, so it's going to go down in the middle. And it worked out just fine. But lots of the other sites, quite nice. Not necessarily all of them had 2 picnic tables. An interesting sort of site for us. We left on Friday the 13th, which For those of you who don't know, Turkey Point being very close to Port Dover, Ontario, on Lake Erie, it's a bike thing. It's a motorcycle thing. I don't even know how to describe it, but tens and tens of thousands of motorcycles descend on Port Dover for a Friday the 13th. Lots of them do it just because. Plenty of bike clubs also do to raise charity money for whoever. So that's a good thing. It was insane. This was they said it was a down year. The city officials had started publishing ads and making sure that news reports went out 5 months beforehand to say, please don't come because we don't know how to deal with this with the COVID thing. And it didn't appear to slow them down, but they said it was substantially less, but it was still tens and tens of thousands. It was just motorcycles everywhere.
Hundreds of them coming at us as we were leaving the opposite way.
Crazy,
yeah. And I can't imagine Port Dover's not that big a town. I just can't imagine where all those people would go.
No, and there certainly couldn't have been anything vaguely resembling social distancing. It would have been just shoulder to shoulder. It was nuts.
Yeah. And one thing to mention too about our campsite in that night, they had all the rain. Our neighbors didn't fare quite so well. They were on a bit of a lower grade from us, and they were trekking back and forth to the comfort station to use the dryers to dry their bedding out. We felt badly for them, but yeah, we were high and dry.
So there's a vote right there for using air mattresses when you're car camping, because that stuff floats. It'll get wet, but at least you won't be sleeping in a puddle of water.
That's it for us for today. We're from supergoodcamping.com. Please do connect with us on all the social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Our website is supergoodcamping.com. And I'm Pamela.
I'm Tim.
And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.